Welcome back to Identiverse 2025 for the day one wrap up. It's a short day. We only did 2 interviews today and an intro. Jackie McGuire is back with me.
Hello.
How you doing, Jackie?
Thank you for having me back.
And yeah, we're going to wrap up. I don't think we learned a whole lot today, but I have a long list of stuff I need to look up.
Yes, yeah.
I've literally been taking notes here, and there's acronyms I need to look up. There's ideas, concepts I need to look up.
Yeah.
I don't know what shifting towards user-controlled identity models means. So I think to survive tomorrow, I need to brush up on my identity knowledge.
There is a product marketing manager out there who is so salty that you don't know what that means, because that is literally the crux of their entire performance review.
Yeah. They've written so many blog posts on it.
Yeah, you know, I think it's one of the hard things for us, especially hosting.
I'm sure their SEO's great.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, and they're going to create a new acronym, and that's what everybody wants to do with their life, right? They're going to work with their analyst of choice, and they're going to create more letters for the alphabet soup, and everybody's going to get a bonus.
I now have to go look up and spend my time learning and understanding.
Yeah, you know, a nurse on my flight here today jokingly said, you know, there's a couple different cybersecurity conferences going on in Vegas, so, because it was a couple older couples, they were a little tipsy already, and I said, so just don't connect to any random Wi-Fi networks, no matter whether they're the name of your hotel or not. And the lady was asking me, you know, like...
They're not that kind of conference.
Yeah, she's like, how do you know? And I was like, oh, I do cybersecurity. Yeah. And she's like, really? She's like, can I do cybersecurity? And I was like, well, what do you do now? And she said, I'm a nurse. And I'm like, oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. Like, I actually wrote this
You already understand some of the key concepts.
Yeah, you know
HIPAA rule, you already know a lot.
Yeah, no, right? And like the acronyms. The ability to memorize so many different acronyms, and then like responding to different incidents in nursing. Yeah, it's all following policies and procedures and playbooks. And if you can handle a code blue, you'll probably be okay with like a severe security incident that when it's not actually life and death.
Yeah.
I think it was just interesting talking to her, because she was like, you know, I feel like there's so much to learn, and I'm like, yeah but you're in an industry where that's the case as well. But it's always one of the hard trade-offs for us at these things is, you know, we only get to go to a couple sessions if we're lucky, because we have work to do, and like trying to choose which things to go learn and which things are going to be impactful is not easy.
It's an interesting career, because people coming in now, like I was a generalist both by choice, but also it made the most sense.
Yeah.
Because back when I started, there weren't that many roles in cybersecurity. Mm-hmm. And so you could literally do all the things in cybersecurity. Now it's spread out so much, and CISOs have more and more stuff to worry about. It's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like even just, this is an identity-focused conference, and there are so many talk tracks, so many things going on at once. I imagine some of the people out here in the expo right now still haven't decided what they're going to go listen to tomorrow, what talks they're going to, if they're even going to sit in talks.
Yeah.
Like a lot of conferences, I got to a certain point, I would just spend my time meeting up with people. Mm-hmm. You know, like what's my next career role?
Yeah.
Like, you know, am I looking to move into a role with more responsibility? Do I want to leave the enterprise side and go to a vendor?
Yeah.
Do I want to be an industry analyst? I didn't even know industry analyst was an option until I saw on Twitter a job posting for it from Wendy Nather. And, you know, next thing I know, I'm making a career pivot into...
I have to credit Justin Lamb with that for me. I posted on LinkedIn years ago. I was like, hey, I have this really weird background of finance and business and music business and data science. What do I do with this? And he was like, you become an industry analyst.
I found out we're connected through Justin Lamb because I chose, when I went to lead 451 Research, Scott said, fine. Scott Crawford, the research director over there.
Love you, Scott.
Said, okay, that's fine, but please help me find your replacement. And so my first choice was Fernando Montenegro. And Fernando Montenegro selected Justin Lamb as his replacement, I think.
Yeah.
And then Justin knew you.
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
And Fernando is also one of our
Small
favorites.
world.
Yes, yeah. Fernando's my favorite because he's always willing to sit next to me at the big group analyst briefings and kind of kiki and talk a little smack. And
yeah.
But yeah, Justin is actually, geez, he and my husband have probably known each other for 30
really?
years, 25 years.
Wow.
Yeah, so they both played for the San Jose Seahawks, which is
really?
a semi-pro rugby team in San Jose. Yeah, and Justin is just like everybody's favorite person.
Yeah.
He's just such a good dude. And so my husband had known him, and that's how he saw my LinkedIn post in the first place, was through my husband. So very small world, given how big the Bay Area is. But yeah, and I agree. I got into the industry analyst role, and I was like, this is my thing. I can explain. And I went onto the vendor side, spent some time on the dark side for a while to understand that part, but I would never have even known that career was an option had it not been for Justin. And it's one of the things that came up when I was at WeSys, talking to women in cybersecurity, is none of them knew a sales engineer was a thing. Mm-hmm. And some of them were like, I don't want to write code 8 hours a day. I like people. And I'm like, be a sales engineer. You'll make more money. And they were like, what's that?
You have to know that's an option. Yeah, right.
So it's like, how do you figure out what to do? We were just talking about this before we started this, is like, at these conferences, how do you choose your own adventure in the right way? So that you don't just walk away with a bag full of crap that you're either going to give to your kids to break or throw in the garbage. Because that's usually what you end up with.
I mean, networking is so important. I mean, that's how, it's one of my mentors is the one that taught me to get into getting on Twitter in the first place. Mm-hmm. Going to conferences, meeting other people, getting involved with community. So if he hadn't have done that, I wouldn't have seen this job posting. I wouldn't have met Wendy. I don't think I've ever gotten a job with a resume.
No.
It's always been through people I know, people I meet.
The last time I got a job with a resume was when I was 20 and got my job at Fidelity.
Right, yeah, when I was much younger, maybe.
Yeah. But, the way I see it, and we were talking about this a little before we started filming, is there's kind of 3 tracks I see at each conference, right? There's what's personally interesting to me. So I always think that, I'm autistic, so I have a special interest at all times. I have many special interests to hyper-focus on at all times. So, you can choose your conference adventure where you pick the stuff that's interesting to you and go to those sessions, because you're going to get the most out of those sessions because you're actually interested in them. I think there's kind of the middle of the road where you go to sessions applicable to your current role, but more focused on where you're trying to go, what the next role looks like.
Yeah.
If your employer's paying for you to go to a conference, I think one of the great things you can do is try to hit at least 1 or 2 sessions that you can really bring something back from to apply to your employer. So I think you just kind of have to find the mix of those 3 things, that you make it out of the end of the conference with as much retained information as possible, which is hard.
I imagine some people, in order to go to a conference, probably have to do a write-up when they get back, right?
Yeah.
Or expected to. Here's what I learned, here's, kind of debrief the rest of the team that didn't get to go to the conference, right? So...
or if you want to keep being able to go to conferences when everybody else's budgets get cut, even if you're not required, that is a phenomenal thing for you to use your time for when you get back to the office, is give everybody 5 important things I learned and show that it was worth your time.
But you can probably combine many of those things, right? Mm-hmm. You can do a little bit of each at least. But yeah, it's interesting. We were talking about, this is, I think, the first conference I've been to since the pandemic or since ChatGPT, where AI is not plastered all over everything. AI is here. It is. I walked around the expo earlier. We do see vendors mentioning AI, but it's not the most important thing in identity.
Yeah.
In identity, it's still a bit of a mess. Observability is an issue. AI is actually going to create more identity issues than it solves. That seems very clear with MCP and non-human identities. So it's very interesting to come to a conference where AI is just the next problem to be solved, not the savior of everything. Right?
Yeah, we were just talking to Todd at ESG, and he was saying, people probably aren't really going to care about security for AI and agents until there's demonstrable harm.
Oh, yeah.
Because really everybody's just really chasing demonstrable ROI right now. And so somebody's going to go too far with that, trying to tie whatever their agents are doing to making more money, and then that'll be an issue, right?
Well, it's a recipe, right? Like the same ingredients go into cauldron every time a new technology comes out. A bunch of YOLO engineers. I mean, I'm not being fair. Like, it's exciting stuff. They want to play with it. They want to share their work on GitHub. I can't blame them for that. Maybe even, they have a note in the README that says, this is not the secure way to do it. Don't do it like this in production. But still, people are going to take it. There's no HTTPS. We go absolutely back to the late 90s, Wild West of technology. We forget all the lessons that we've learned, and we just deploy stuff, and maybe we tell ourselves, oh yeah, I'll do proper access control and get certificates for things and like make everything proper if it works. Because you don't even know if it's going to work. Maybe it's garbage. Maybe everybody hates it.
Yeah.
But some percentage of those companies will deploy things insecurely, and it's going to be a mess. And we're already seeing some of that.
Yeah. Yeah, and to give credit to some of those young, eager engineers, what I would have thought was okay to do with data 15 years ago, and I'm not saying technologically 15 years ago, I'm saying when I was a much younger version of myself. Sometimes I think until you really grow up in the world and experience enough systemic risk and things going wrong and a ripple effect, you just really, I don't know that if you're not hyper paranoid when you're a young engineer, you can really conceive of how left things can go, how quickly.
And we're both parents, so I can't say how much having kids kind of creates that effect. Like, you look at risk differently once you have kids.
Yeah, and the kind of like, and also having to teach your kids about risk, the systemic nature of it, absolutely. And so I think, I generally think most people make the poor decisions they make out of ignorance, not malice. And so when if I had found some great new way to generate 10x revenue when I was a salesperson at Radio Shack, I probably would have been doing all kinds of unethical stuff to sell more cell phones when I was 18, right? So, I think it starts with the best of intentions, but to your point, it's like, this will work for now, and then all of a sudden you've got revenue coming in based on that thing, and it's just implemented without the proper controls in place because everybody got so excited about revenue that nobody looked at risk. Woo! Had a hot mic here. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but we got a hot mic.
What's the
Tyson got the SNL reference.
Yeah, I'm looking right at the guy. He's not having a good time over there. What swag should you take home? Should you take home any swag? I'm at the point in my life where if it's not a Yeti mug that will last me 20 years, I don't want it. Maybe if the t-shirt's really soft, but everything else is trash. To me, everything else is 2 weeks away from a landfill.
Yeah, I try to take as little as possible home now. I do always pick up backpacks just because I live in Tucson and we have a lot of reservations around my town where they always need school supplies. So I pick up blank notebooks, backpacks, pens.
It is the exterior of the care package.
Yeah, exactly. So I generally, like at RSA, I took like 10 backpacks home from RSA to donate. So I think about things you can give back to the community, because one of the horrific things I noticed when I first started doing trade shows is a lot of these companies just throw away whatever's left over. So if you've got extra room and you can take 20 t-shirts home and give them to Goodwill, maybe all those people homeless in the park with your t-shirts on aren't the best advertising, but neither is wasteful marketing. So,
and I think my first, I'd never been to Black Hat or RSA before becoming an industry analyst. So, and that was 2013, I think, was my first RSA. And after over a decade, I feel like I've seen the swag, a lot more thought put into it. I feel like there's a lot less disposable stuff, frivolous stuff, and a lot more thought towards things that are practical. Like I see a lot of screen cleaners out there, right? Stuff that just becomes part of your kit that you take in your backpack with you. So I'd like to think that's getting better, right? Like,
Yeah.
I joined, booth babes were still a thing when I joined, when I started coming to conferences. We didn't.
People,
we
people
didn't,
don't still mistake you for one? People think I'm one all the time. They don't think you're a booth babe?
with the long hair.
Yeah.
I do look like I mean, I'm on camera right now, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was shocked that people would not think that you're a booth babe.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like, scantily dressed and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Like, that didn't really hit the fan until maybe 2015, 2016. And then it went into the policy of the show, like, you bring any of that to the conference, we shut down your booth. And I saw it happen at Black Hat.
Somebody moved theirs to an after hours event.
Somebody tweeted. Somebody took a picture and tweeted.
Nice.
Booth babes. That booth was done.
Well, the good news is last year they put lampshades on them and sent them to a bar outside the conference. So. No, I mean, I want to say, because I tell people this all the time, cybersecurity is one of the industries, is the industry that I have worked in where I have felt the safest as a woman, and I want to reiterate that as much as I can. I have had men in security proactively intervene on my behalf when other men are behaving badly, which almost never happened in finance. So I do want to, we make jokes. I do think when sales and marketing get involved, sometimes things go sideways, but I tend to hang out with most of the keyboard nerds. Yeah. And those people, I have never felt safer than in large groups of security nerds, even when they're all men. So we joke, but I do want to make it very clear that of all of the industries I've worked in, this is one of the ones that is a good one. I feel respected almost all of the time. I feel safe. The number of I'm also getting older, so maybe the number of unpleasant incidents I've had have been so much lower than the other industries I've worked in that I want to make sure I point out that we're being mostly facetious and that security has done a much better job than other industries of cracking down on those things.
Almost all of the time.
Almost all of the time.
Still work to do.
Yeah, there is. And like I said, sometimes when sales comes in, it gets a little hairy. But yes, I do want to give credit where credit is due.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's all for us here today. We're going to go ahead and wrap up. Tune back in. We do have a day 2 live stream, and that's when we're doing most of the interviews. So be sure to tune in for that. Be going on all day. When do we start tomorrow, Tyson? What time? 9 a.m. Pacific. And we don't have an opener. We're just going to jump straight into the interviews. So we'll see you at 9.